Friends, here's the second one, and I see it almost every day on these forums. Deep misunderstanding about the Bible. Now, how many saw the Bill Maher movie, Religulous? Did you see that? No, I'm glad, actually. I went to see it. I was given an advance ticket. I didn't put my Roman collar on. I kind of snuck into this theater. And the YouTube I've done on that actually has gotten the most attention of anyone that I've done. But, you know, Bill Maher, the comedian, who is, now talk about overexposed. My mother thinks I'm overexposed. Bill Maher is everywhere. Larry King used to have him on, I think, like every other, Tuesday or something. Well, Bill Maher hates religion. And the movie, Religulous, as the title would suggest, it's just this ridiculous holdover from a primitive time. And his strategy in that movie was, consistently, to take people who frankly just weren't that capable of defending their faith and bringing before them what he thought were just ridiculous claims from the Bible. So you believe in this talking snake, huh? You believe that the world is 5,000 years old, huh? You believe that Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the fish. So just bringing forward all these kind of scenes from the Old Testament especially, and challenging the literalistic reading. Here's a first response now when I come up against this sort of biblical literalism. The Bible is not so much a book as a library. I think once you see that, an awful lot gets cleared up. The Bible is a collection of texts from a wide variety of genre, written at a wide variety of different times, written by different authors for different purposes. You've got in the Bible sometimes some relatively straightforward history. Think of, 1 and 2 Samuel or something. You've got an apocalypse in the Bible, like the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation. You've got letters in the Bible, like Paul to the Romans or Paul to the Galatians. You've got saga in the Bible, like the beginning of the book of Genesis. You've got gospels in the Bible, their own unique genre. Do you take the library literally? Well, it depends on what section you're in, right? You walk in the library, you walk into the history section, okay. You walk into a journalism section, you look at old newspapers. Yeah, you take that more or less straightforwardly. But now you wander into the poetry section. You wander into the mythology section. You wander into the epistolary section. If you approach those texts with the same clunky interpretive lenses that you use to read literalistic texts, you will ipso facto misread them. One of the disciplines we learn in hermeneutics or interpretation theory is how to take off and put on different sets of glasses. One of the most fundamental questions you can ask about any text is, what kind of text is this? In fact, earlier today, just in the other room there, we were talking about one of my favorite books, Moby Dick, because the former presidents of Elmhurst College reminded me of Herman Melville. These wonderful 19th century beards, They all look like whalers just off the Pequod. Beautiful. I had my picture taken with one of them. I love that era, Well, you pick up a book like Moby Dick, well, what is it? What is the first question you have to ask? What is this? Oh, it's a journalistic account of a whaling adventure in the 19th century. No, come on, man. It's a novel, Once you know it's a novel, you approach it with the right set of lenses. One of the most fundamental problems is a lack of genre sensitivity in regard to the Bible. And I see it everywhere on the YouTube forums. Either it's straightforward history or it's just nonsense. That's the binary option. One thing I found, and maybe there's some English teachers here, and they can really help us with this. I have found in the general populace an extreme insensitivity to the way literary texts mean. Do you know what I'm talking about? A deep insensitivity to the way poetry functions, the way mythology functions, the way a novel functions. They all function in a very distinctive manner. But so often my interlocutors say straightforward history or journalism, option A, or nonsense, option B. Come on. There's all sorts of options in between those two. And the Bible is full of different genre. We have to be sensitive to that. It's hugely important, I think, as we do our work in evangelization. Something else now with the Bible. When I make this observation, I'm almost always met with the counter argument. You're just cherry picking. You're just deciding which texts you want to be literal, which ones you don't. And that gives me the opportunity to say, no, I'm insisting that we read the Bible within an interpretive tradition. Now, friends, I'm going to speak here very much out of the Catholic tradition. I don't think it's a good idea simply to pick up the Bible and read it. Just as I don't think it's a good idea to pick up Hamlet and read it. You know what I'm saying? Or pick up Moby Dick and just, I'm going to read it, and I understand how it works. Don't we, when we approach a text like Hamlet, a richly complex text, don't we automatically consult a long, disciplined, interpretive tradition? The long history of those who've read Hamlet, have wrestled with it, have argued over it. You pick up a book like Moby Dick, well, of course, you love to read all the critical history around the interpretation of it. Simply to pick it up on your own, without that preparation, without that discipline, is almost a guarantee that you'll misread it. So I argue with the Bible. We have to read it within the context of this richly disciplined and complex interpretive tradition that I would call the church. And here I'm not just restricting it to the Catholic Church. I mean the whole community of those over space and time who've read the Bible. That, I think, is something very much missing as people try to understand the Bible today. Here's something else. People say to me, oh, come on, Father, you're just responding with all this stuff because science has finally forced you believers into these more symbolic or more subtle interpretations. And I'll say, no, man, go back to Origen, 3rd century. What do you find? Richly textured, symbolic, non-literalistic readings. Go back to Augustine, 4th, 5th century. What do you find? Same thing. Richly complex symbolic readings. Go up to Thomas Aquinas, go to St. Bernard, go throughout the Middle Ages, and you find the 4 senses of Scripture. I argue with these people that fundamentalism, the literalism that we see today, is really a modernism. It's an invention of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Christians were fighting against what they saw as an aggressive modernity. But in fact, you look back further in the Christian tradition, you find this very complex, satisfying, rich, interpretive tradition. I think bringing that to bear is very important as we do our work in evangelization.